Hello and welcome everyone to Outdoor Dance Collection 2021 Day 1. I'm Lucy Mirkova and I'm Head of Artistic Programs for DanceXchange and the curator at Birmingham International Dance Festival. I'm white, female in her 40s. I have blonde hair in ponytail. I'm wearing glasses with brown frames and red lipstick. I have a black top. BIDF, as we call it, is produced by DanceXchange, which is a dance development organisation for the region of West Midlands in the UK. BIDF is the city's signature biennial festival that usually happens in early summer and takes over the city's theatres, streets and squares in the celebration of dance. This year, because of the pandemic and the uncertain situation about live events, we have decided to do things a bit differently and present a two-part festival with online summer edition taking place from the 3rd until the 13th of June that will be followed by autumn edition from 21st September until the 3rd of October with live program focused on outdoor presentations. I'm thrilled and delighted to be welcoming you all to our first ever outdoor dance collection. It is a new dance and outdoors arts industry program as part of the festival professional and industry strand. It's been developed as part of BIDF's strategic role and commitment in supporting and building the market for UK dance and assisting artists in developing, promoting and disseminating their work. It is also a place for thought-provoking and forward-thinking discourse events on dance and the outdoor arts. It was originally designed as an in-person event last year, but because of the circumstances we are all finding ourselves in, both pandemic and also environmental crisis related, we have developed this incredible online space with global audiences. Outdoor Dance Collection has two parts: the Dance Showcase on 3rd and 4th of June, and Dance and the Outdoor Symposium on 8th and 9th June. The showcase part of the program has been devised in collaboration and delivered in partnership with two partners: Xtrax, a Manchester-based development organisation for outdoor arts, as part of their platform for the UK program, and also Dance4, another dance development organisation from Nottingham, East Midlands, as part of their Dance from England program, which is an international program of action research and delivery that brings together international programmers and artists and producers based in England to develop new relationships to increase presence of UK artists across the world. The program of showcase includes 2 panel discussions, networking opportunities and most importantly, the presentation of 14 projects for outdoor spaces. As part of the program, our delegates also have access to a catalogue of outdoor dance work from the UK available for touring in 2021 and 2022 that was collected through an open call earlier this year. The second part of the Outdoor Dance Collection is the Dance and the Outdoor Symposium that's been devised and produced by 101 Outdoor Arts, a National Centre for Development of Outdoor Arts and Work for Public Spaces, and The Place, a centre for dance development in London with a nationwide touring programme. The 2-day digital conference is bringing together practitioners, producers and presenters of outdoor dance to explore how artists are creating work for public space. I'm not going to go into many details here, as you can find all the details on the program on the Feedloop platform under the Sessions tab in the menu on the left. You can also find more details on all the partners and their activity visiting their booths in the exhibition hall. I would also like to take the opportunity to invite you to check the BIDF's public festival program at bidf.co.uk. Lastly, I would like to mention, if we were attending this event in person, we will make sure to give you a proper tour of Birmingham. As we are not able to do so, we would at least like to do that via the screen. Tonight, at 7:30 p.m. BST time, we are premiering 8 brand new film commissions as part of our Midlands Made programme that supports the creative practice of artists with strong connections to the Midlands. I was lucky enough to see all the films already, and you are there for a treat. And also an insight into the public spaces of Birmingham and the wider region. If you are not able to join us this evening, the program will be available for viewing until the end of the festival, 13th of June, under the Midlands Made channel as part of the festival's online platform, BIDF TV. Before I go, I would like to wholeheartedly say thank you to all of our partners, Xtrax, Dance4, The Place, and 101 Outdoor Arts, who are all behind this incredible program. And without their incredible ideas, commitment, and ongoing support, this program would have not happened. I would also like to say a big thank you to our funders, the Arts Council England. I wish you all a fantastic and inspiring session, and I give the floor now to Anais from Xtrax. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy, and hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for this first session as part of the Outdoor Dance Collection 2021. My name is Anaïs Bio, and I am the Creative Development and Partnerships Manager at Xtrax, one of the key organizations managing the UK Outdoor Dance Showcase Programme. I'm a white woman in my late 30s. I have long brown hair, and today I'm wearing a black top. I use the pronouns she and her. I'm delighted to say that you are more than 200 people from 20 countries to be joining us online today. Before introducing you to today's panel, I would like to run through a few practicalities to make sure that you make the most of this experience. Feel free to use the public chat on the right-hand side to say hello, who you are and where you're from. For access purposes, all sessions will be captioned. We strongly encourage you to ask questions to our panelists and to engage in the discussion. To do so, please use the public chat on the right-hand side. Recordings of all the sessions will be made available on the Feedloop platform following the event and until Friday, the 11th of June. A British Sign Language interpreted version of all the recordings will also be made available after BIDF. Please feel free to comment, post, and tweet about today's event using the hashtag ODC21 and UK Dance Showcase, and make sure that you follow BIDF, Dance4, and Xtrax on social media, as we'll be sharing updates and resources. Without further ado, and before I disappear, I'm pleased to introduce our chair for this session, Jill Bates, Interim Director, Touring and Dance at Arts Council England. Thank you so much, Jill, for joining us today. We're delighted to have you on board. I'll now give you the floor to introduce the panelists and the session. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Anis, and thank you and welcome to everyone to this first session titled International Connections, Dance in the Public Space in North America. Really pleased and excited to be here introducing and chairing this panel today. As Anais said, I'm currently the Interim Director of Touring and Dance at Arts Council England. I am a white man in my late 30s. I have short brown hair and I am currently wearing a grey and black checked top polo shirt with a black collar. And I use the pronouns he and him. In terms of the work that we've been doing at Arts Council, I'm particularly interested in this. So before, as I've been undertaking my job previously to being director, I was senior manager for dance and touring and was involved in setting up some of the projects in North America, particularly with the British Council based in Washington, and supporting producers to work both in America and in the UK. And also a few years ago, I was involved in helping to set up the Dance from England programme with Dance4. Prior to that, I was an independent producer working for dance companies and organisations and touring both nationally and internationally and so had various interactions with the North American market. So hopefully I can bring some of that insight today. However, I'm really pleased. We've got some brilliant panelists to introduce them today. So first off, we have Gilles Doré. Gilles, since 2019, has been the International Development Director at CINARS in Montreal. Before working at CINARS, Gilles was the Director of Art Circulation, which is a consortium of contemporary dance companies, and was also the financial manager of O Vertigo company that some of you may have heard of, as well as being a private consultant for cultural management and international development. This led him to work with Quebec Arts Council, and he's also undertaken various missions abroad for companies in dance, theatre, and music, and therefore brings a huge wealth of experience to this panel today. We've also got joining us Monique Martin, who's an independent curator, producer, and marketing consultant, and has served on numerous national and international advisory committees, boards, panels, including the Association of Performing Arts Presenters, or APAP, and the International Society for Performing Arts, ISPA, among others. She worked at City Parks Foundation in New York from 2007 to 2017 as the programming director for Summer Stage, where she presented work annually in over 50 parks across the city. She then went on to work as director of programming for Harlem Stage from 2017 to 2021, where she expanded the commissioning and arts education program. She's currently working as an independent producer, focusing work on New York City's reopening and supporting artists and arts organizations in presenting outdoor arts, which we look forward to hearing a lot more about during this session. So thank you. I'm going to hand you over to Gilles first, who I think is going to do a little introduction about himself and the work that CINARS is currently doing. So over to you, Gilles.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Joe. Thank you so much, Birmingham International Dance Festival, and also Xtrax to invite us to be part of this webinar. Yes, my name is Gilles Doré. I'm from Montreal. I'm a white man, brown hair, black shirt, and late 50s. First of all, I'd like to introduce you to CINARS with a short video of 40 seconds, and after that I will explain to you a little bit more about what is CINARS and what is in the trend now in the performing arts around the world we see emerging. So please, you can send the video now if it's possible on your side. So through this video, you've seen a little bit about what is the signature and the type of what is CINARS Biennale. I'd like now to share my screen with a PowerPoint presentation, but CINARS is much more than the Biennale. So give me 2 seconds. I will share my screen. And there we go. So CINARS is established since 37 years now. Since 1984, we had 18 edition, but we also do other activities, such as in the last year, of course, as we are going through the COVID, we've been doing 2 CINARS webinar conferences. We were supposed to do a CINARS Biennale in November, but we went, of course, virtual. And we did another one in last week. We also do international mission and networking around the world. So we bring people, artists and agents from Canada around the world, and also presenters. CINARS is also offering seminars around the world. We're doing one in March 2022 in Copenhagen. But we've been doing seminars in Mexico, in Finland, in Seoul, in Tokyo, and of course in Canada. And we, CINARS, also do special project for with international partners to create some connection and partnership around the world with companies and organizations. So what is the approach of CINARS? Of course, it's to try to put people together and also promoting our artists around the world. So our approach is make known the shows and the people also, and bring the people to live activities. Well, of course, now the borders are closed, but we try to put interaction with the people, so to generate relation and to see live shows. Of course, we're working with the field, so the artist, the agent, the presenters, and also cultural delegates. So we need to know what's happening on the fields, because we're working with the field people that are directly on the field of performing arts internationally. So we do consultation. We have 30,000 contacts around the world, 30,000, yeah, exactly. So of course, it's a lot of people, and we're working with different disciplines of performing arts. So we need to have a better quality of contact, as if we're working with segmentation of type of people, disciplines. But into disciplines, there's also different families of performing arts. So we try to reach those new type of family. We support professionals, like I said just before. We work also with diversity and multi-generation. We try to bring youngers to be in contact with ambassador of companies that have been already touring. So to create a synergy between the group. Of course, we try to work in the ecology minding and ecosystem. Instead of working hierarchy, we try to work all together. And of course, all of our activity try to do in reciprocity. We're going to different countries around the world, and we try to bring people in Canada. So that's why we're now bringing programmer to travel with us to discover shows around the world. So as I said, CINARS is almost 2,000 professional, 54 countries, 300 cultural delegates, 400 programmer from all around the world. Also during the CINARS Biennale, we have up to 170 shows in the off, and you'll be able to see during the week, and we provide conferences, workshop, networking activities. So as I said, we do international mission. We do up to 10 to 15 missions per year to different territory and countries. So you can see that overall during the year, you can have up to a minimum of 10 to 12 to 15 activities of traveling. Now they went all into virtual activities. So even if we cannot travel, the contact around the world keeps going. We do also call of application for our artists for showcase for foreign countries. For, like I just showed before, some conference around the world offer international showcase. So we try to put our artists in those kind of conferences. We do international programming, call of application. We had experiencing a festival that approached us to find artists from Canada. So we provide call of application so that the programmer can see discover our artists. We do commission, a call of application for commission of show. Also, we put in contact project for co-production. We do residency project for international. Right now, we're doing project with 3 organizations in the state of New York. We're also working with India to do project of residency, and we will have also in the months to come with Italy, France, hopefully with UK. And we also CINARS attract international conferences of the performing arts to Montreal, so to generate also activities and to discover our artists. As I said, we do provide seminars on international touring. We do consultancy for programmer and artists, and we offer expertise to international organizations. As you know, in the last year, everybody went on the web, and CINARS did 2 activities, like I said. So I'll show you what it looks like to go into web activities and what is our strategy to go virtual. So last November, I'll show you the last November activities, even if we did one last week. So our approach for virtual is to try to create an interactive experience. Otherwise, it would be too passive. So we try to create activities to have a sense of being together with international connection, proposing a live event, even our conferences, our pitch session with international company touring the world, and also all the B2B platform, which try to do experience that everybody's in during the week are with us all together. It was important also because we had up to 700 to 800 participants to both of our activities to try to put people to meet together. So there's an algorithm with the platform we use to create better searching and putting people in contact. It was important for us also to propose shows that have been postponed, the touring that have been postponed in 2022, 23. So to think about how can I have a better touring experience in 2022 and 23. So we show up to 24 shows of touring that have been postponed in 2022, 23. And of course, we offered conferences, including international speakers. So as I said, we did pitch session, meeting with new people, conference for each performing arts disciplines, live show streaming, promoting your own work with a web page, and also having a participant to be direct online. So this the statistics of this fall experience, and last week we had up to 870 participants, so a growth of about 20%. So the platform helps you to, as I said, to do a segmentation. As you see, there's different way to get to the information you need, either the participant, the speaker, the exhibition hall, or the exhibition project. So here you have a picture of what it looks like, and you can do your search by continent here, or by countries, and also the type of show you're searching. So for presenters, it's easier to find people that are close to your expectation. For the professional, as I said, there's a AE matches when you register. We ask you a certain number of questions, like 8 questions, and you can have the opportunity to meet people close to your interest. Here's people that are online with the green circle. You know that they are online. You can click on their page, ask them to have a meeting, and you can also search here the type, the country of the people you would like to meet. As I said, you can have, we were proposing 30 speakers for 5 continents with 7 conferences, touring speaker experience, like I said, and the live stream show that we proposed. Everybody was looking on the show live and were able to chat during the show that we provide. So now I'd like to give an overview of what we are seeing CINARS around the world since the borders are closed, knowing that the mobility is hard. So there's a new wording, new conception of the touring. Since the mobility is almost closed for international touring, I mean, the territory have to be reconsidered. The physical concept is on the edge of being rethinking. Instead of talking about mobility, touring, and territory, now we begin to talk about circulation of performing arts. I mean, how can I support artists of my own country to keep contact with the world when the borders are closed? So instead of talking about mobility and territory, we're talking about circulation. How can I distribute those performing arts artists? And also the goal, the challenge is to reach the public in their own intimacy. So there's a virtual concept of, instead of touring, we're talking about circulation. Also, there's a new behaving, either between gathering all together versus intimacy with the screen. And there's this ergonomic, should we say, aspect of how we live together right now with the performing arts experience. So there's new thinking about, when we sit in a theater with 2 meters with distanciation, how we will behave now in terms of coming back in those way to have the experience of performing arts. Also, the thinking of ecology, create a new minding of how should I consider the touring? Should I consider success or achievement? Success meaning, should I go into a volume of show, or should I go into specific and smaller touring, but in a much more quality, in an ecology way of thinking? So success and achievement is two concepts that are being thinking now. Also through the virtual contact and through the the circulation around the world since the two decades, the people in the circulation, the mobility of the people raised a lot, growth a lot. And so now we're seeing a rethinking of what is local and global through the net also. So we see that there's a multiplicity of forms and proposition, and this creates a multi-segmentation of family around the world. So also since the COVID, we see that there's a new ecosystem around the world, new business model. We might not be kept those condition of the COVID, but this create a thinking of a new business model. Since the people are not touring as they used to, since the theater do not sell ticket as they used to, since the people are trying to get to be back to performing arts in the street and in the park, where the people do not sell tickets, there's a new way of thinking of what's the model of my organization, but also what is the new economic model of the culture in the city and in the nation. So we see new international living arts arising and thinking and new community around the world. So I should talk about more precisely about all of those issues, but I leave now the conference and the discussion. So this is also, just to give you the last presentation, this is a meaningful, I think, performing arts and the living arts proposition. It's not wording, it's not text, but it says a lot of information, and it's a performance capture with a picture. So I'm leaving you on that. And I give the voice to Martin, Monique, thank you.
That's brilliant, Gilles. Thank you so much. It's Joe here. I just can't, my video won't go on. But I'm going to have some really interesting things that were coming up there, particularly around the language that we're using, around distribution of work, touring, circulation, that I think is fascinating. Would love to get into a bit more about that. So I'm going to hand you swiftly over to Monique, who is joining us from New York for her presentation, which I am going to share from my screen, I think. Over to you.
Hi. Good morning. Good morning. It's morning here in New York City. I'm Monique Martin, and it is lovely. Can you start from the top?
Yeah.
It's lovely to be here. My pronouns are she, her. I am a light-skinned, brown, African-American woman wearing pink-rimmed glasses and a gray and brown shirt, and I am in the autumn of my 50s. I'm streaming in from the unceded land of the Lenape people on the island of Manhattan here in New York. And again, it's an honor to be here. So one of the challenges here in the States is the lack of value for outdoor arts. What's the value of outdoor arts? Where we have been in a construct of venues holding more value. So we have these beautiful venues. So to cross the threshold of Carnegie Hall or any of the beautiful venues here in New York City, with the pandemic and venues being shuttered, and we don't know when we will come back to full capacity, we have been forced, to my delight, because I come with a background of outdoor arts and I love outdoor arts, presenters, artists, organizations, funders have had to think about how can we put more support around outdoor arts if you feel as though they need that they are not on par with what's happening in venues. So it's forced us to really look at outdoor arts, and dance has had the most mobility. It's adaptable, it's mobile, so it's had a lot of success in the last year. A couple of the slides I'd like to show. This is Alyssa Monte Dance. This is Harlem Stage, where I was a programming director until this past January, earlier this year. And this piece was commissioned to celebrate the centennial of the Harlem Renaissance. It's a dance theater work, and it was slated to premiere spring of 2020. And of course, that did not happen. We can go on to the next slide. So now it was filmed earlier this year. This is Bryant Park. So it's now a dance theater piece on film with a filmmaker. I was able to, I wrote a grant and was able to receive funding to pair choreographers with filmmakers so that the work was captured in the beginning, where we're used to capturing for archival purposes. Next slide. This is the artistic director. Next slide, Tiffany Ray Fisher. Double slide, another beautiful, this is in front of the museum, not the museum, this is in front of the main library on 42nd Street. Bryant Park is part of that. So it's a beautiful backdrop, and it really is showing, again, funders, because we have a different funding model here in the States that is not supported by the government. Next slides, please. We can roll through these, and I'll just keep talking. This is Summer Stage Everywhere, where the festival where I used to work took an outdoor festival that we could not build a stage and set it across New York City. So this is at 6 a.m. In Times Square. Yes, beautiful dancer. Next is a dancer from Alvin Ailey, Kalila, who was dancing in the park in the Bronx. It's part of a celebration that Alvin Ailey and Summer Stage we collaborated on. This is Matthew Rushing, who was the principal Alvin Ailey dancer, dancing in Columbus Circle. Next slide. This is a rooftop in Brooklyn. Taye is a beautiful flamenco dancer, again, part of just animating. And as you can see in the background, the Empire State Building, just a little tidbit of New York City. So what it is also doing is animating the city. How can the city also be one of the characters in this art experience? Next slide, please. Fifth Avenue. I wish I could show you this entire dance. It's so beautiful. I do have some links that I'll drop in the chat where you can go and see all of these works. Next slide, please. Right on Fifth Avenue. This is a park in Brooklyn, gorgeous dancer. And Catspan, I'd like to talk a bit about this. What is happening now is dancers are now going to what is being called the bubble. And Catspan is one of those bubbles, which is located about 2.5 hours north of New York City. So dancers, a company will go up to Catspan. They'll have a residency there. All the COVID restrictions are being adhered to. They come back to the city, and Lincoln Center out of doors and the Guggenheim Works in Process are two of the locations where then they will perform from the bubble, and then they are free. So they are able to be in a safe environment with their company and create work where venues are not. So Catspan is indoors and outdoors, absolutely beautiful. This piece here is part of Open Culture Works. It's a new project that I'm working with. And this is from the mayor, which has a program, and I'll drop all these links into the chat, to open streets. So there's open streets, and now there's open culture, there's open boulevards. So a lot of artists, a lot of companies receiving a permit from the Parks Department is its own bureaucratic journey. What the city wanted to do was to eliminate some of that bureaucracy. So they started a program called Open Streets, where you would have, at this time, it was less than 25 people could be there. And what's beautiful about this project is the lead dancer here in the front, Daniel, is a dancer from the Jose Limon Company, and he's toured around the world. And this is in his community. So although there aren't 1 million people there or 1,000 people there, he was so moved to be able to bring his art to his community. And as many of you know, oftentimes the community does not make it to the venue. So next slide. I think that's the end of my visual presentation. So what's exciting about this time is artists and arts organizations, and again, as I said, policymakers really looking at how can we support outdoor arts in a more meaningful way. They're seeing also the value of outdoor arts and the audience response to it. We are now at 50% capacity in terms of the guidelines of opening up, but we also are finding that there is a lot of resistance. Audiences are saying they are not ready to go back inside. So where is there opportunity to lift the value of outdoor accessible arts? There's some wonderful organizations that have also opened up. Little Island is one of them, and they're opening up. It's a beautiful new outdoor venue on the west side. I'll drop a link in the chat so you can see all the great work that they're doing. And they also are open to circus, which is near and dear to my heart, contemporary circus. And we know that circus is also an adaptable art form. So it's an exciting time in New York City and in North America. And I really feel a shift happening in the sector. Thank you.
That is brilliant. Thank you so much, Monique. I have to say, thinking about New York at this moment in time and how the streets might all be opened up and how working with the city council to enable that to happen must come with a certain number of challenges, I would say. So it might be interesting to hear a little bit about that. I'm aware that we are, had some presentations here which have been absolutely brilliant, but this very much is an interactive. It is for you guys in terms of people asking questions, so feel free to pop questions in the chat. We'd love you to say who you are and where you come from so that I can refer to them. We've already had some really great comments coming through, particularly around the platforms that are being used and how we do the idea of online showcasing and online sharing and networking, which obviously over the last year we've seen a massive growth in around the world, and lots of tech companies developing new ways of doing things and kind of very, very speedily picking up some of the challenges and trying to mitigate them moving forward. So we've had a couple of people suggest that actually the one that you used for CINARS was very successful and really enabled people to connect. Yeah, so let's jump in, and I'll go for the first one, shall I? I think it'd be really interesting for people to hear whether there are some kind of key festivals and examples across North America, perhaps that you're aware of, that are both outside, or they may be coming to CINAR perhaps as a participant, and you're connecting people there. But are there particular places where you see there's growth areas across North America in other cities, and are networks starting to kind of be developed? Perhaps throw that to Gilles first and see what he's got to say.
Yes, I think everybody's living the same thing around the world, but with different tools. And in Montreal last year, everything was locked, and people in the street the artists tried to go in the alley of the streets. Between street there's alley, and circus artists went on the street in the alley to offers to people to see shows, and also artists in the park, dance artists was performing in parks in intimacy. Now this year with what's happening in Montreal, there's a few festivals. I'll share fast my screen and won't take too much. So there's activities in Quebec. So it's Jouer dehors. It's actually activity of dance in streets and parks happening in different cities in Quebec. So you see a numerous type of kind of performance of dance, and they do call application, they support artists, they provide shows to different cities. Also the Festival Trans-Amérique in Montreal just are on its way right now, and they do provide a programming outdoor. As you see, they have about 5 shows 4 to 5 shows outside. It could be either a performance, projection, dance, and indigenous show. There's also a festival at the end of, in September. It calls Quartier Danse. It's based in Montreal, and they perform in different parts of the town and also outside. And so you see Quartier Danse will be in mid-September. Le Quartier des Spectacles, it's a space in Montreal, a place in Montreal, as you see here. They provide also, excuse me, I'll show you fast, numerous type of activities for the people. So you can see different picture of different type of activities, and shows of dance are also welcome to perform there, and they do call it application and produce show for dance also. Now the Circus Festival in Montreal, it will happen live in Montreal in mid-July, and they also provide outdoor show for the public. And in the north of Montreal, in the mountains, there's this festival of show that they did last year. They asked many artists, Marie Chouinard or Virginie Brunel, many artists from Quebec, and they did a special project with Orchestre Métropolitain, and they did these, it's too long, wait a minute, and they create those film that the people were able to see, go see in the park or see a film. So those are the type of activities that are happening in Quebec right now.
Brilliant, thanks, Gilles. And Monique, are you starting, I suppose, through the work that you've done with places like APAP and ISPA, are you starting to see that growth in other cities happening around the United States at the moment, around trying to expand public spaces, and particularly with dance, or do you feel like, and is New York kind of leading the way in that from your perspective?
New York is leading the way in terms of dance, and I think that is one. New York takes risk. It is known to be a city that will take risk, and there's such limited space. So dancers have had to be far more compact and find spaces that, you know, is not a huge stage. I will say that what's happened across the country in places like Florida or in the Midwest, they're taking over parking lots. So there's these festivals popping up in parking lots, and they have the geographic landscape that unfortunately we don't have in New York City. So you're seeing film where people are in their cars, you're seeing concerts, and you're seeing dance in spaces that they can do pods. So they have actually the space where they can put 2 people in a pod or 4 people in a pod and have the social distancing. Some of the festivals are also following that model that have limited space. Here in New York, Lincoln Center Out of Doors, which again, that's a link that I dropped in the chat. They have had an architect that has redesigned the entire campus, and it's called Open Stages, and it's beautiful with all this green turf. It looks like a park, but they have the resources to do that. So other communities who don't have those kinds of resources are finding ways to do smaller shows and smaller presentations.
So carrying that sort of theme on, we've got a question coming through from Maggie Clark at Xtrax, which is also an organisation in the UK that works in outdoor arts and has commissioning programmes and has networks of venues and presenters and promoters and artists. And she's asking that if artists and festivals from the UK wanted to build connections with those festivals in Quebec, Canada, or in New York and the rest of the USA, where should they start? What's the sort of first point of call if they have never done it before, and obviously at the moment have an inability to actually visit a space and see it? Who wants to go?
Well, you know, Maggie, you've been doing this since 25 years like me. It takes time. First of all, it takes time to be in contact with people. You need to get to platform that you know that there will be a crossroad of people. I think CINARS would be a good place to meet. I think, you know, international presenters and also Canadian presenters. I think now that the border are closed, it's harder, of course, to get into direct connection. But all the platforms now are going virtual. So you can, if you have a good platform, it helps you to create connection first and create a dialogue first and generate dialogue much more than once. You need to create connection and relationship and create and go to festival website to see if they're close to what you are, and then try to be in contact with them.
Monique, what's your sort of approach and how you'd advise people to get in contact with you?
I would add to that, looking at the conferences. So APAP, ISPA, Under the Radar, everything is virtual now. And even when conferences, you heard it here first, that a lot of the conferences are not going to be live even in 2022. So this is an opportunity now, excuse me, the conferences are doing year-round programming, not just the January barrage of like 5 conferences back to back. So this is a time to go onto those websites and start a dialogue. As Gilles is saying, it's all about a relationship versus a transaction. So start that dialogue. Many of the residency organizations like Katzbahn, like Gibney Dance, that's a place where you can start to have a conversation around cultural exchange and collaboration.
I think that's really interesting, actually, that shift in terms of, rather than doing the big blowout events, whether it's all in New York for January and everybody has to go there, and then we all go back to our day jobs and occasionally might go, oh, I need to send that email and forget about it. Actually, there's that more consistency, as you say, across the year, where there's opportunities to have that engagement on a more consistent basis.
I would add to that, Joe, quickly, this would be a good opportunity to pitch an Xtrax conversation at the conference, so that you can represent your community, because APAP and all of the other conferences are also looking to expand. Yeah,
absolutely. I've got a follow-up question actually from Adam, who runs C12 Dance Theatre, who's a great company that have done quite a lot of work out in the outdoor arts sector in the UK for a number of years. And he's asking whether it's best to sort of attend networking sessions such as this, and whether it's the artist that perhaps is trying to kind of drive the conversation, or actually it's better to engage with an independent producer in the country you're trying to work in, and kind of either engage them as a producer or an agent and use them as the kind of network to come through. What's your response to that? Gilles, you're smiling.
I say hit them from all sides.
Well, I think it depends on the personality of the artist, the family with whom he's working with. It's two different ways to develop. Doing international development needs time, connection, and keep the contact running. So the artists can do it. However, some artists are much more great to create than to talk about their pieces. Some are really at ease to talk about their pieces, and they are very entrepreneur. So it depends all the time. But we know that it's a specific job to be a bridger, someone that sells. I shouldn't say sell, because we used to sell, 3 decades ago. We're not there anymore. We're getting in contact, and it's a job, and it's a way of thinking. So it depends on the personality. And this is another subject of how am I, and how am I a machine to promote myself as an artist, or should I put that in the hand of someone else?
There's definitely something that's been coming up for me about that concept of cultural connectors, like that being quite a sort of specific thing, and how you find that and expand that in the current world that we're living in. Monique, what would you advise people kind of getting into the USA market, which I think has been notoriously hard?
It is notoriously hard, even for us inside. And I have to just go back to relationships. I will say that this time that we're in, it feels artists have more autonomy and power, if I can use that pedantic word, because you don't have the presenter, you're not waiting for a presenter to present your work. You're taking your work directly to your audience. So then how can you connect on a virtual platform with other artists or with other, again, residency programs? Because we are finding, I'm really excited that there's more funding now going to residencies and the creation of new work. They're really, funders are seeing that they need to funnel that money down a bit more in the sector and not just go to your same sources of dance makers, whether those are the large companies. So all the money cannot just go to ABT, American Ballet Theater. You know, we also have these smaller, interesting, exciting companies who now are finding a platform online in a way that they haven't before. So I would also advise looking at using technology to connect.
Great, thank you. We've got a question here from Mar from Catalan Arts. It's asking, are outdoor arts free events for audiences in New York and Quebec? So is it all open and free access, or is there some paid activity?
That's a great question. And I think Gilles talked a little bit about the monetization. Like, we're not there yet. So, and there's two reasons. One, we're trying to figure it out. What's what in terms of producers and presenters and organizations. We have received some funding. That's a good thing. With the government did receive some funding to keep the arts alive. However, to monetize it, audiences are a little reticent because there's been so much free content out here. So what price do you put on it? And is it this, are they seeing it as the same value as being inside a venue? So that question of monetization and how much you charge is still a question. The last thing I'll say is, if everything is free, then you also, people don't sometimes show up because you need to place a value on it.
Absolutely. Gilles, what's your...
Well, this is attached to what I said before, that, you know, we're seeing that the business model is about, you know, not changing because it's been there, but with the COVID and the fact that the people are less into theater, indoor theaters, sell tickets less than they used to. Of course, they have some rent for, you know, those countries that have, you know, a good economy, of course. Mm-hmm. I think things will need to be revised, because I think the city and special event to bring back the performing arts into citizens will grow, I think, in coming years, to bring back the people in theaters. How we will behave now that we're, you know, we've been, you know, used to have 2 meter distance, or not wanting to go back into theater inside. So how, if the model of the theater that have to sell tickets to be level in their budget, but the people still want to go to see shows. So the government, I think, will have to create a reach with the public to bring them back to center cities. So I think we'll see a new model of economy, or a rethinking of economy, going through a few years in the years to come. We might go back to normal in 2, 3, 4 years from now, but I think will be discussed in the field, I think.
There's a fantastic, I was at Fusebox Festival in Austin a couple of years ago, and they have a very interesting model about where all tickets are free as part of that festival, but they have a system in place called Respect the Reservation. And they actually they generally sell out very fast, but if you give then you have to give the tickets back when you can't use them. And if you don't show, then you essentially get a black mark against your name, and you can only do that twice. So it's quite hardcore, but it works. And actually the shows are full. So it's an interesting thing. And what they're able to do with that model is then present that to the kind of city councils and to the funders to say, look, this is what our reach and this is what our audience is, and it's huge. And we're doing all these audience development initiatives, but actually the impact is coming from, is free. And so it can be easily accessible, and you should also support that. So anyway, there's a great, Andrew Bailey from Quebec Government Office in London has said that they're able to provide artists and cultural organisations in the UK with some advice regarding performing arts in Quebec, which is brilliant. So thank you very much, Andrew, for putting that in there. I've got a question here from Simon Chasterton, who is at 101 Outdoor Arts, and said he was interested in the terminology being used in the United States and Canada, noticing that Monique had used the phrase outdoor arts. He's asking, is this regularly used and understood, or is the work described differently?
Outdoor arts in the States has really not defined itself to have a category on a funding application, or there is a category in funding. So if you go to NEA, you cannot find outdoor arts to apply, right? Mm-hmm. So it's still not really in the lexicon. It's a term that we use. It's a term that has been used more in the last year than it has before. What has been used for performances that happen outdoor is festival. So I'm excited that the term outdoor arts is creeping into the consciousness and the lexicon of people to really think about what does that mean to have arts outdoors, and what is the range of possibilities for that.
And I think that's very important, actually, because if people are talking to promoters, presenters in the United States, and that kind of language isn't being used, and then people perhaps need to be aware of that when they start those dialogues and those connections. Gilles, is that similar in Canada, or outdoor arts is broadly used?
I'm not sure. You know, I've been living in Montreal since almost 40 years. There's those festivals in the street, so and inside. So I'm not sure about the terminology in English about talking outdoors show.
I've heard, I suppose, people refer to outdoor arts as, you know, public art or community arts, or, you know, those sorts of phrases before. I'm just wondering.
Well,
and some phrases that are used as spectacle, which okay. when I first started working with River to River Festival before Summer Stage, that was a term that we started to try to use because it's a term that's used in the UK and in Europe, spectacle arts. But here, funders ran for the hills and thought it meant fire breather people with chainsaws or something. Like the idea of a spectacle was dangerous or edgy and not arts.
Okay.
So I just offer that to say that this is a great opportunity to start to refine the language.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Maggie's also just popped into the chat, and I was going to come on to this actually. There's quite a few of the outdoor festivals in the UK that are running now over the kind of summer months as we're able to. And she's asking whether there are festivals being presented live in the USA and Canada over the kind of summer months as well, or is it kind of predominantly online that you're seeing at the moment? Like, how far are people stretching at the minute? Gilles, what's happening?
Well, right now, like I said, a lot of festivals are going to reach people outside, and also the theater are beginning to open with a smaller, you know, public inside, but they're still doing activities outside, knowing that it's and they have support from the Art Council also for doing that, knowing that it's people don't want to go too much inside, or they are, you know, a smaller experience if they go inside. You know, one quarter of the public could go inside, so they do a lot, you know. Festival Transamérique, Festival Saint-Sauveur, Complètement Cirque, Quartier Danse. So there's a lot of, and even the jazz festival in the Francophonie, which brought a lot of people in the street in June and July, they postponed their festival in September, so to be in order to have much more people in the streets, and you know, the weather is still good in September because, you know, outdoor in Canada, of course, it's from May to October max. And the difficulties about, you know, doing that outdoors festival in US and Canada from European size point of view is that if you bring a lot of sets, you have to put that in a boat for 3 weeks, you know, going to US. And this is a challenge for the European companies that want to put their set in a boat 3 weeks to go and 3 weeks to come back, because they would have much more opportunity to tour in in Europe. Otherwise, they double their set. So anyway, this is another aspect of, you know.
So it sounds like you're sort of in a similar place, I suppose, to the UK, but it's more about domestic kind of performers and companies at the moment. And Monique?
Yeah.
All of the festivals in New York are going on this year, so very exciting. Summer Stage just announced yesterday, Lincoln Center, Celebrate Brooklyn, and the new venue, Little Island, as I spoke about. They all have limited capacity, free tickets that you have to reserve. So this will be a big experiment this summer to see how that works. They're already selling out of a lot of the events that are taking place in June. Across the country, festivals in Reno, Nevada, Art Park, they are going on as scheduled. They have these beautiful pods. So they're working with designers. And I think that's another interesting point to bring in, is that now organizations are looking to work with different kinds of architects and designers in creating these outdoor space. So it's bringing in different thought partners. And I think that's going to only enhance the sector. So Art Park in Reno, Nevada, they have these beautiful pods that they've created. Same in other cities. Most festivals are going on as planned. It's just reduced capacity with all of the COVID restrictions. And we'll see how smooth they all work.
And that's quite interesting in terms of opening up to different artistic practices or different creative practices. And I think obviously during this period, I think artists have been immensely creative in terms of what they're thinking about their own practice and who they might want to work with and how they might want to work with those people. I'm interested from a programmer's perspective, whether your perception is that programmers and presenters are kind of broadening their horizons and looking for that new stuff, or have you got a sense that they're locking down into, we need to work with the people we know and we're going to stick with that for the time being because times are so uncertain?
Yes,
I think
and
it's
no.
a combination. Because the people that you know, and I'm making a broad stroke generalization. So if you're looking at a well-resourced larger institution, the people that they know oftentimes are artists who are, you know, seasoned. So they're not artists that are emerging and might be more experimental in working across disciplines with a technology. I know a B girl, she's just working with a technology person who is putting points on her body. And so it's now going to be a virtual experience and it's an app. I mean, there's just the opportunity to work with other disciplines, because we're not going to go back, like this idea of going back. We're going forward. So how do we have the mix of the virtual, where the virtual is exciting?
Absolutely. Gilles, you're going to come in.
I don't remember. I don't remember. I mean, no, that's okay. First, oh yeah, of course, last March, last year, everybody was saying either my touring are canceled or postponed. So now we're facing maybe, you know, a too much proposal in 2022. However, the artists keep going and create, and programmers are still going through times, and some show won't be fitting anymore in 2022. Even for the artists that don't want to still show their show. So there will be an adaptation. And of course, we're talking about what's happening right now in this summer in Montreal and in New York. And, of course, the borders are closed, but the discussion right now is to talk about over the borders. And over the borders means that we need to work right here, right now for next year. Because the programming, it's not happening this summer. The programming process, it's happening in a year from now. So the discussion and the work that the people that are listening to us is that they need to be in contact and having a dialogue, trying to reach, going to virtual discussion right now. So to create relationship and maybe residency through virtual faces. And then when the border will be open, it could be residency. Try to develop contact. It could be also to propose new shows with new technology. The technologies won't replace. It's a diversification of tools to reach new type of people, a new way to consider the syntax of different performing arts or living arts. Yes, like Monique said, we go on. We're not going back.
Absolutely. I think that beautifully segues into perhaps the final question that we've got for today, which comes from Julia Robert, who's part of Humanhood, which is a company based here in the Midlands in the UK. And the question is about, in terms of touring in Canada and the USA, is there a network or a collaborative system in which those programmers and festivals are coming together to provide different platforms for a visiting company? So that actually, rather than them going into one space and just doing that, actually, is there the opportunity, if it doesn't exist, for a consortium to come together and say, we will present an international company in a completely different way? And that's particularly interesting for us at Arts Council because of our focus on environmental responsibility and how we look at different methods of touring and distribution. So yeah, does anything exist yet in terms of networks?
I will say it's always hard to create a connection between programmers. There's a network, but programmers like to have their own signature. They have their own programming, and there's a will. The programmer would like to, work in contact connection, but it's all of this. It's happening naturally with the people that you like to work with, that have the same artistic value. I think the best way to doing that, it's those professional that we call now agent or producer that do know many programmer in Canada and in the US to know this show could fit in Montreal and could fit in New York and Austin instead of it's a expertise that people get to have.
Monique, do you know of any networks that currently exist that people connect into?
They're informal, and as Gilles is saying, they're sometimes people are very protective over those relationships. And I'll thread it back to my earlier comment. It's about relationships. And when you're talking to a bridge builder, right? And you can feel when you're talking to someone who the door is right here and that's it. But I will also add that this year that we've gone through has really shown, I'm heartened, more collaborations. There's more artists, more organizations, more importantly, organizations who are willing to collaborate. So Cat's Band having the bubble upstate and then coming down to Lincoln Center or going to the Guggenheim Works in Process or going to Gibney, that didn't happen prior to the pandemic. Those relationships were very tightly held. So I wouldn't say that there is an existing network right now that you can plug into, but it's bubbling up. And there's an organization, it's CIPA, C-I-P-A, and it's a consortium of independent producers alliance. I'll try to find the website, but it's independent producers who have the capacity to work with an artist from ideation all the way through premiere. So they know how to raise money. They know how to have relationships with institutions, soup to nuts. So they're more than an agent, right? And now there's a whole consortium, and and I'm part of that. And we received our first 2 grants from the NEA, who's recognizing the value of this kind of outlier person that exists all over. You know, I think of someone like Rachel Clare. It's for you all. It's someone like that who knows both how to present, how to raise money, how to support artists, but is not an agent, is not a manager, and is not really a presenter. So those people bring so much value to the field, and now we're being recognized.
And there's a similar thing emerging here so we had a big push around the freelance task force last year that was supporting freelancers and offering opportunities. And out of that, I think in the UK, there's some emerging kind of networks of producers working in that way and stuff. That's really good to hear, because I think, you know, everybody wants to be given that ticket of this is the person and here is their contact details and they're going to change the world for you. But as we know, that is quite hard to come to. Gilles, did you want to just come back in?
Just in bracket, there's some things happening in Europe. We call it Perform Europe, and they're talking about now, instead of having, you know, this exclusivity of programming for hundreds of kilometers around my festival, now they're thinking about much more intelligent touring and try to create connection with other festivals, not closer but in contact, like say the Pulse Dance Project group. It's 12 festival of dance around Europe, co-producing and helping touring project that have in the group. So instead of now, we used to go programming as a vertical, and I know, and this is my castle. Now they begin to say we need to go much more into ecology thinking and to horizontal and try in an ecosystem, try to work. So if you travel, you might go to a connection of few festival, doing residency project, workshop, so have an intelligent touring. So this might also, COVID create new thinking and new connection to work together to help artists that are meaningful for a certain territory and culture. So we hope that it happens.
On a domestic level, we're looking in the UK around how you do much more embedded touring. So it's in place, you're reaching people in a much deeper capacity. You know, the idea of the one-hit wonders feels like has long gone, and it's been going that way for a while anyway. I'm going to wrap it up there. That's been absolutely brilliant. I mean, I think we've bombarded people with information, knowledge, intelligence, expertise. You've been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm very sorry, Johnny, we didn't get to your final question. I think quickly, it does appear to be, from what Gilles said earlier, that April to September is when the outdoor arts sector happens in North America, similar to over here. And in terms of programming discussions, I think that is something that, who knows, it's different from different places, I think. But sorry, we couldn't answer that one more fully. So just lastly, say thank you so much again for joining us. It's been a brilliant first session. I've really enjoyed it, and I've learned some new things. And I'm going to pass you back now to Anais to wrap up the session. But thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you everybody for attending the session. A special thanks to Monique and Gilles and Joe for an insightful session, and especially around how we're adapting our practices to connect internationally and virtually, and how we're seeing an opportunity for change as well when it comes to creating and touring work and engaging with audiences. So thank you. I would like to remind you that we have a couple more sessions for today, starting with our first artist pitching session at 3 p.m. UK time. That's just under 45 minutes from now. And you'll hear from 7 companies from the UK and from Quebec. And then we'll finish the day with our networking session at 4:30 UK time. And we warmly invite you to come along. We have 3 more sessions for tomorrow with a bit more of a focus on outdoor dance scene in Europe. In the meantime, please feel free to engage with the event platform FeedLoop between these sessions. You can easily network with other delegates by clicking on the networking tab on the left-hand side, where you'll see the full list of delegates attending BIDF. And you can get in touch with them using the private chat or set up some one-to-one video calls. You can also visit the exhibit hall where pitching sessions and organizers of ODC have a booth and will be able to share information and facilitate connections. If you need any support navigating the platform, please refer to our attendee guides or use the chat widget, and a member of our team will be there to support you. Once again, thank you to your listeners and to your wonderful speakers, and we hope to see you shortly for coming sessions. Thank you.